Welcome to the Millionaire Next Door podcast with Robert Curtis, CFP accredited investment fiduciary from Signature Estate and Investment Advisors. In this podcast, we help successful wealth accumulators like you looking to transition to a work-optional lifestyle by helping you build strategies for growing and maintaining your wealth. Robert draws from years of experience and fiduciary responsibility and interviews guest experts to help you build reliable strategies to grow and maintain your wealth. Now, on to the show.
Rob Curtis wants the best for his clients, and that means a good relationship, a good fit. I'm Patrice Sikora. Now, Rob, I know you are selectively taking on new clients right now, and you look for that fit. But how do you determine if you and the potential client actually mesh?
Yeah, but Patrice, thanks. That's a really great question. Let me walk you through that process a little bit. And it is a real process. I've been doing this 24 years, so it's taken time to develop a process, but it is so key. So if one of our clients or someone wants to introduce us to someone they care about, we want to make that easy for them. We like them to understand how that works and what someone they may be introducing will experience. So we do have a process we follow when we meet for someone for the first time. For starters, they could just reach out, simply call my office. We could chat for a few minutes, see what's going on. But then typically I will send them an introductory kit. And this will provide important information about who we are and how that person might benefit from what we do. The second step is for them to call them after they've received the introduction kit and had an opportunity to review it and schedule our first appointment. Mm-hmm. That could be obviously in person, on Zoom, on phone, however that works. The first appointment will be approximately 45 minutes long. And it's an opportunity for us to determine if there's a fit.
Okay, so 45 minutes is it's a substantial amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We commit some time. We really want to know and understand that person and what they're looking for and give them some sense of what we do. So I'll go into further details of why, but we have a formalized agenda. I'm going to talk about that. We have a process. It's a very vetted process. We go through it each time, and we just feel it's really important. And it's, when you're working together, and I'm right now we're going through a lot in the markets, but the fact that we've determined this fit, it's so important. So when you find the right fit, it's really key. But yeah, 45 minutes, a good long time, and I want to stress that no decisions will be made at this first meeting. We believe it's the best decisions are made in an unhurried manner. So we feel it's important for both of us to have a couple of days after the meeting to reflect on what we've heard and learned. People can use this time to assess our practice and approach to ensure we can deliver what they're looking for. And I'll use that time to assess their needs and expectations to ensure they're a good fit for our philosophy and approach. And then there's a follow-up call. We'll either mutually agree that there's a fit, or we'll proceed to the next step. Or one of us will determine maybe we're not the right fit for each other, and we'll respectively not proceed any further. So I'll just sort of ask them if that sounds reasonable, and usually it does.
Okay. Well, in that first meeting, what exactly happens? What do you talk about?
So yeah, as discussed, in our prior meeting, during the appointment, we'll have the chance to get to know more about each other. I'm going to share with them information about a practice and approach so they can determine, if it is in fact what they're looking for. And I'll be asking them to share information about their financial goals and expectations from an advisor so I can determine if it's a good fit for my philosophy and approach. And just little logistics I've learned over the years. I let them know, we'll validate parking in our building. I let them know exactly how to get there, which driveway to turn into so they don't go in the wrong one and not have that covered. I explain, where we are in the building, up the elevators. And then I was reminded the other day, I met with a client I've been working with for almost 15 years, but she does not take elevators. So,
Okay.
interestingly, so we met down in the courtyard. They sort of, during COVID and the lockdown, they upgraded the building substantially, putting in a beautiful gym and a really nice courtyard outside. So she doesn't take elevators. The last time we had met, so we sat out there and it was peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And point being, we just make it really easy for them to find us. So we're not, they're not going to the wrong building or something like that. Yeah.
I got to jump in here. That is so helpful because it's so stressful going to a new building going,
Yeah.
where do I go in? Where do I park? How much is it? And is there going to be space? That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're in Pasadena, but in Los Angeles. So, it's even a little bit more so. So we just walk them right through the logistics, turn down the driveway, go to this side, park in this area of the building.
Perfect.
Yeah. We just want that to be clear for them. Yep. And then during the meeting, we will share a formalized agenda. We have a formalized agenda. We use this each and every time. We share that ahead of time. We really stress transparency in our practice. We want this to be an open kitchen, as we call it, like an open kitchen concept, where you can see in the kitchen. There's no surprises. Is he microwaving something? No, you can see, it's fresh and he's cutting it up, but we're very open. On that agenda, let me walk you through a few of the bullet points we would cover, just so they know what to expect. And we'd have a meeting overview, obviously, as our first bullet point. We would talk about our practice and approach, just so they could understand what we do, how we're differentiated in the market, who we might be suited for, the kinds of things we do. We talk about the planning process, and I cover something called critical financial events. These have become even more pronounced and more apparent to me, I think, during going through the COVID pandemic and post-pandemic. Let me spend a minute with that. What I mean by that is obviously people are interviewing us, and a lot of people, for the investment management and our tactical allocation and this sector and rotation. Do we go to cash? All that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of skill and expertise and process. But as what we really find is where most of our value comes in is during these critical financial events.
Sure.
So that could be, I've had a number of clients have had some very severe medical diagnoses. I'm dealing with 4 people with severe cancers right now, and their family. All of a sudden that's a critical financial event. Other things don't have to be that extreme. It could be someone hits 60 years of age, and that's an inflection point. They start thinking, or someone's getting close to retirement, or they've retired, or, I had someone there, their oldest child just got into a great college, UCLA. I had one last year. A student went to Cambridge, they're in their freshman year. Yeah. In England. So that's a monumental event we've saved for college. Other people, they're taking care of aging parents, or their parents pass, or they sell a piece of real estate, or things change. Even they move out of state. They're thinking about it. Just all these critical financial events. We've added a lot. They've added to that. They've just taken on additional significance, and a lot of the fit clients really value. And I've literally had folks just absolutely bare their soul to me. So we have a very, very tight fit, and we're not for everyone. We're trying to do the right things for the right people. But what is interesting upon further reflection is, all the technical expertise and the acumen and the credentials and all that stuff's there, but sometimes people really just want that sort of bedside manner, and that we can relate. And when they need some help, they're not really caring about 2% out of technology into energy. They, there's other things that are deeper. So that's, I spent a little time on that bullet point, but that's really huge. And that's been amplified of late. Another bullet point is understanding their expectations. What are they, what are their expectations? What's been their experience up to this point? Another bullet point, your financial and lifestyle goals, what's important to you. I talk about what I call FORM, F-O-R-M. The F is family. Family is just huge. It's so, I mentioned someone going to college, taking care of parents. I've been blessed to have a number of second and third generation clients. And that's really, really key. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But family, we emphasize that. What I call the O in form is occupation. What do they do for work? What's that like? Explain that, where they're at in their career. R is sort of their recreational interests. What are their passions? Are they into golfing or tennis or gardening or wine tasting? Surfing. Oh my. Well, then we spend the whole meeting talking about, no, I keep them on track, but, we might find we have some interests in common. I had someone I just started working with after a lengthy fit process. And then I mentioned there was something we could talk about. He said, well, he explained he was going into a 3 or 4 day fast. And I had been reading a lot and contemplating it and trying to do a little bit, not very successfully, but I really respected that. And I just thought, my goodness, there's a reason these two of us are together. And I congratulate him. I said, that's a step I haven't been able to take. And at any rate, I'm going down a side rabbit hole, but it was amazing because all these things I'd heard, he told me he hates it. It's uncomfortable as anything. But everything, his skin clears up. All these things are better. His aches and pains go away. His arthritis. So all these things I've heard. But at any rate, this is a side thing. But
this
recreation.
This is important. You're connecting with a potential client.
Yeah, 100%. And I really got it. And I've heard a lot. So it was interesting for him to share that. And then I'm like, man, if I was going through a 4-day fast, I might not want to have a heavy conversation at this moment. So we're going to talk early next week. But we get into all that, their recreational bucket list. I mean, it's so enjoyable. Clients delegate a lot to me, but there's just this high level of trust. Checked in with the existing client, about a week or so ago, just to see what the markets, does he want to talk? Says he'd like to schedule some time in July. This week, as we record this, he's getting ready to go to Greece with his family. And I remember about 5 years ago, he had gone and brought his entire family to Greece. And they're from the US and whatnot. But I think it's either their parents or maybe his grandparents were from Greece. So they had the time of their lives, and the really conservative, reserved, wife or woman, she was dancing on the tables. And then I got the holiday card with these pictures. So here they are doing these things. So I know what that means to them. And that was just great. And we can still connect. So at any rate, recreation. And then M in form is the money that makes it all happen. But that's really, that's the what. The others are the why. And we connect, and that's just super, super important to us. So the final bullet point in this agenda is, where do we go from here? I mean, I want to let them know, what a next step is, where we're at. We'll always do that in every meeting. So that's a little bit about the process there. Yep.
Rob, so what else happens, or what else do you cover in this meeting?
Yeah, well, quite a bit. I ask, who are they currently working with? Do they work within a registered investment advisory firm similar to ourselves? I mean, that's really the kind of the highest level of fiduciary and stewardship type connection. And I want to know if they're there, or what else are they working with? A broker, with a financial advisor, with a bank, an investment advisor, an estate planner. What's been their relationship up to this point, or even maybe they've been doing it themselves. I've asked them, if they are working with someone, how long they've worked with that entity or those individuals. Are they satisfied with the service? I mean, why or why not? What are their primary reasons for seeking a financial advisor, especially if they already have one? What's going on there? Has that been satisfying? Is that working for you? Sometimes people feel they're due for an upgrade, but I just want to see where they're at in the process. I want to know about their expectations from the financial planning process, what stage they're at in their career, in a general sense. Do they have retirement plans, say at work, a 401k, 403b, that kind of thing, a defined benefit plan? Do they have an estate plan? Mm-hmm. And if yes, are they satisfied with that? When was it updated? Who do they work with? All that kind of stuff. I obviously get a sense of their financial situation, their mutual funds, stocks, retirement accounts, again, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, qualified tuition savings plans like 529 plans, cash, bonds, CDs, other investments, real estate, their approximate income. And then I ask them to share any other details of their financial situation. And that's always interesting. Different stuff comes up. I have, someone, they actually own a farm in Kansas that they've had for years and provides some income to them. But, what are the other key details going on? Yep.
So you've had this meeting. It's at least 45 minutes. And then you said you don't make any decisions then. So what happens next?
Sure. Well, typically 48 hours later, I call the person and I check back and I let them know that I really enjoyed meeting them. And then, as I mentioned at the end of our last meeting, I'm just calling to discuss if they think there's a fit there and what their thoughts on that. And if their decision is yes, and we've thought it through, I let them know I've carefully considered our meeting and discussed it with my staff. And our decision is that we have the capacity to serve your situation nicely. And I'm confident that we'll work very well together. And I get their thoughts on the matter.
Right.
And, the key point here, and this is just so critical as you go through really lifelong, engagements and relationships, is there needs to be a mutual thumbs up. And if there's a mutual thumbs up, that's good. I let them know at that point to get the planning process started. We need to schedule our next meeting. There's a number of meetings that go on, but you don't have to meet all the time if you don't want a million meetings. A lot of people submit documents to us. We get them a full checklist of what they're going to need. A lot of people scan it over. Between me and my team and my assistant, I just had one this morning. They sent me some stuff from an old employer-based plan. My assistants open an account. We're going to get that transferred. They sent me something from an old bank account thing that they had, a brokerage that came over in about 4 days. So we're very efficient with the technology, with DocuSign, with transferring, but we can get that all set up. And then after we would schedule a follow-up meeting where we'd meet and go deeper from there. If their decision is no, by the way, I thought I'd cover that.
Yeah.
I let them know I totally respect their decision. And I just want to say, it's a delight to meet you. And I enjoyed our meeting. Where we stand, should you ever wish to look at us again. Please call our office and we can revisit the process at that time.
Okay. And what if they've said, I got to think about it some more?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Totally understand. We get that a lot. I haven't made up my mind, or a lot of times they just have life things coming up. I'm working on a kitchen remodel or whatnot, or sometimes they want to interview other advisors, whatever that means exactly. We let them know we completely understand. Our process is for fit is an interview as well of them. And we just want to say it was a delight to meet them. We enjoyed the meeting. Where we stand. Should you wish to have us, revisit this, just give us a call and we'll go from there. So,
But now, Rob, what if you decide it doesn't seem to be a fit? How do you tell them no?
Yeah, that's a good question. I let them know that I've carefully considered our meeting and for their situation, I don't think I'm the best financial advisor to them. I'll give them one or two decisions. If I think I can introduce them to someone else that is, I'll certainly do that. I'll let them know the financial planning process. I think they could still benefit from it. This person might serve you. We were introduced to someone who wanted us to actually draft and do estate plans, and I just directed them elsewhere. But if it's not a fit, they usually get it, and we need to be respectful of our existing clients. And we have some capacity, but we're really not chasing down folks or bringing on too many. We're still trying to keep the practice small and intimate, where we can really do all things for all people that are the right fit.
All right, and well, tell us more about how you work and add value for clients.
Yeah, there's just so much, going on there. I would say probably the primary thing is certainly the bedside manner, but the process that we have. We kind of unveiled it in our last podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had virtual fireworks and all kinds of stuff, but we call it our process. Objective, unemotional, rules-based. It's really key, at a time like now, but we add a lot of value, even a fit process. There's all these processes. We cover all areas of, financial planning. There's, we call it 7 pillars, 1 process,
Right.
but we have multiple processes that we've developed over a long period of time. I've been doing this 24 years. I want folks to know under the surface, I'm not complacent here. We are always looking for ways to further enhance those. I mean, COVID brought a lot of adjustments on the way where we're forever stronger. And we're constantly finding new things to update, to integrate. That's really key. And I want clients to know they have a process. And for our clients who introduce us as well, I mean, a lot of times they say, oh, he's a great guy. You should call him. You can trust him. I have all my money with him, whatnot. I mean, that's wonderful. And God bless them. But, we'd prefer, and some of them say, no, he really has a process. Their team has a process.
Mm-hmm.
They have a form process. They have a fit process. They uncover all the needs and put all the pieces together. They explain some of that, and then some people that really resonates for. Another thing I will stress that's become so clear, I emphasize, especially in times like now where there's just so much uncertainty and anxiety and change in the world, between inflation, between geopolitics and whatnot. There's things that what we focus on, there's things that matter to the clients, and there's things we can control. And we draw a circle around each. I show this visually if we're in person, but things that matter, draw a circle. Things that matter we can control, we draw a circle. And if those two were put together where there's a bit of an overlap, kind of like a Venn diagram, where those two overlap, that's where me and, my team, that's where we live. But, if we can't control it, geopolitics or the latest tweet, or is Elon, gonna buy Twitter, whatever. Certainly we don't focus on what we can't control. If it matters, but we can't control it, our ability is kind of limited. So we focus where we need to. That's part of the process. We're always trying to let people know next steps, be proactive. It's really been a blessing to have 2nd and 3rd generation clients. I have some of them coming on right now. That transfer has been made. They're starting, some of them are in their mid 60s actually as a 3rd generation, but
wow.
They, 2nd generation, I should say, but they're having things happen in their lives with health, with properties, with changes. We really, as their life unfolds and their needs evolve, we bring in all these elements to their financial plan. And a lot of times they don't understand everything that we can do or we're capable of until they come to us with an issue or things are different. And then we introduce, and they're surprised to find we can totally take care of that. So we're there to help. It's a huge honor. And that's a little bit about, some of the value, but they find it of an immense value. We have what's called a value-added support team as well. I introduce them to other professionals depending upon if a situation where I think we can bring someone in. We're reviewing someone's insurance portfolio right now and risk management, and I've brought in an outside expert. But and it's been a process, but we can add a lot of value. They're going through the process and trying to learn what's best for them. But in the process, we're getting clarification around their goals, and we're presenting them a number of ideas, and they're thinking it through before they commit to anything. So again, it's just a process. It's educational. We want them to make informed decisions.
Now you're going through, as you said, 2nd and 3rd generation. So I'm assuming that you do estate planning with your clients.
Well, yeah, we've built estate planning into our process. So first of all, we do not draft documents or do trusts or anything like that. We're not attorneys, but I've personally reviewed hundreds of trusts. I know largely what they're trying to do for the most part. We'll engage the vast team as necessary or work with their existing, providers if for their benefit. But it's part of our 7 pillars, 1 process. But I do ask a number of questions that I don't think are always asked by a lot of folks. I mean, does your family get along?
That's important. That's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Is charitable giving important to you? Are there certain children that may need more help than others? I mean, these are important things. And, of course, I get a copy of their trust document if we are going to work together or working together. I keep it on file. We review. I often reach out to their estate planning attorney and keep an ongoing relationship. So ideally, we can work hand in glove with them. I can refer out as needed. But our process that includes working as a team with the client's other professionals helps ensure that we cover all the bases and uncover any blind spots. And in so we liberate them to live their lives.
Now, back closer to the beginning of this podcast, you mentioned DIY clients. Okay, DIY, I think of, HGTV. But tell me about your DIY clients.
Oftentimes more often than not, they've worked with a financial advisor, but there are people who are just doing it themselves, or they've never had one. They don't even know how that works or what to expect or where to start. So we go through that fit process and try and explain what we can do. Other folks are not sure if they need an advisor or what the value is, or, some just feel compelled that this is beyond me now, or I don't know what I'm doing. I took on a client recently in the last few weeks that I was introduced to, and his DIY was he hadn't done anything for years. He'd accumulated a lot of money in a bank account and nothing was happening, and he missed the whole bull market. He's missing the pullback. I mean, he's missed the pullback now, thankfully, but we're developing a shopping list of things to go into when demand returns to the market. But he just said, I know I need some help because I have done nothing, and that's not a good plan at all. Another one that I thought would be interesting to talk about, just to add some value, and this may or may not be a fit, but it's a gentleman who was introduced to us from out of state, actually by his custodian, by Fidelity, believe it or not, that he works with. And they thought he needed some help. So we've chatted several times over about 9 months. You talk about someone who still needs to think about it. He has been doing it himself. He's a retiree about 2 years into retirement. His income is from his portfolio, his investment income. He shared what he was doing. He's getting very mixed results, to be honest. He needs a lot of help, and he shared. And then he actually asked me for what my recommendations would be, like maybe 6-7 months ago. And we talked recently, and he said, by the way, I've been tracking all yours in a fully detailed out spreadsheet, and you've actually done pretty well. And, I'm assuming some of this stuff is, you might have made some changes along the way. So he's a pretty enlightened guy, but he could use a lot of help. What I found interesting, though, the hang up there on whether he comes over, and he may not be a good fit. He shared with me that as a retiree, he's now doing this 40 to 50 hours a week on his portfolio.
Really?
Yeah. And he may be very unique, but he says he's concerned about giving that up because he doesn't know what he'll do with his time. This has become his hobby. And he can only walk the dog around the block so many times. And I explained,
right,
look, you don't have to give it up. You feel free to spend 40 or 50 hours a week. But if you want an engaged partner, a thought partner, we think we can improve your results if we work together. You can still be very involved. You don't have to give it up. So he's still thinking about that, but that's really become his hobby, and he's worried what he'll do with his time, because apparently he doesn't have other recreations. And I appreciate that. But what was interesting, and I brought up for him, and I think it really caught his attention towards the end of the conversation, I explained that in a lot of cases, the value I've brought for clients over many, many years is people need our help. But a lot of times I'll get say it's a couple, a husband and wife, and more often than not, let's say it's the husband who deals with the investments. It doesn't have to be. We've had the other way around. But they say, look, it's really about also when, if I'm not here, if I pass away or get sick or get Alzheimer or dementia, my wife or my spouse, she's going to be completely lost. I mean, this is already kind of out of my comfort zone, but other than working with you, or maybe it isn't, but they they'll have no idea. And now I'm dealing with this, with 4 people with cancer that are pretty deep, and I'm dealing with the spouses. And I remember the first time the light bulb ever really went off in a huge way for this. I mean, maybe like 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And I had this gentleman that I worked with a long time ago. He's a great guy. He's since passed away, and he needed a lot of help. He was a graphic designer. So he, very successful guy, but he just, this was not his world at all. And he said, the reason I'm really doing this is for something happens to me, it's for my wife. So she has someone to turn to who knows what's going on. And then he passed away rather quickly, and the wife ended up passing away rather quickly.
Oh,
And I've now dealt with the adult. They have one child, but he's like 57 years old. And I've dealt with him for over 20 years. He's a lot like his dad. I mean, he's really smart in a blue collar sense. He can fix anything. I mean, any kind of engine, do anything, but this is not his world at all. He doesn't get it. So what I've learned over the years, and I have some other, a number of other clients who've seen the wisdom. Maybe they're I have a 91-year-old now who's introduced me to second generation and third generation, and they get that to pass on that legacy. It's not just the dollars, the bank accounts, some advice, some wisdom, some history, some perspective. And so I pointed this out more succinctly than I'm doing here, but for that gentleman, and I could see him just looking like, I have never thought of that. And, it's pretty important if you're that spouse who's doing that, what about them, because
right.
now I'm dealing with it. They either lose that spouse or they're really sick or demented. And, and man, there's caregiving, they're worn out. They don't know, there's estimated taxes, required minimum distributions. And we're very hand holding through that. So they value that continuity. But that was a long answer with regarding a DIY client. And there might've been many things he just didn't. So I don't know if he'll ever come around, and I don't even know but we're trying to make ourselves available because I think he could use a lot of help. Yeah.
Right. That'll be interesting. We'll have to keep asking you about that one.
Yeah.
But as we go here to wrap up, Rob, tell us more about your hour process and any updates there.
Yeah, the hour process really just continues. I think it's always key. I mean, markets have had a lot of changes. We've seen growth move out of favor, value into style, but, we've seen energy and things like that move in and technology move out. And, our process, it's objective, it's unemotional, it's rules-based. There's nothing new there, but the process continues. And we've seen volatility in markets, but having that consistency of process and applying rules is so key, because a lot of people tend to go intuitively or quote by the seat of their pants. Or I even had a pretty good sized client who said, if the hair on your neck stands up or something, I'm like, it's not the hair. I mean, we have all kinds of, measurements in place that trigger things. And some of our portfolios moved to a fair amount of cash when they were set up that way because the rules dictated that. And then guess what? They'll move back out when the rules say to, in a unemotional, objective, rules-based process that won't be, I'm scared to do this, or that doesn't feel right. No, the time is right. So not a huge update, but the value is huge there. It's come more into focus. We try and emphasize it. That's why people hire us. I mean, they like us, there's a fit, but they want to know there's a process in place. And I want to have that process in place. So I've got reliable indicators to help make recommendations and base decisions on.
All right. Rob, how can listeners reach you to reach out for this perhaps a 45-minute meeting?
Yeah. I mean, all the normal ways. Just give my office a call if you like. I mean, it's 626-795-2944. My assistant Stephanie can, get you in touch and schedule a meeting. You can reach me via email, which works great. rcurtis, CURTISS @SEIA.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You're welcome to connect. Listen to the podcast, share it. But if you're feeling any anxiety, if you want a second opinion, we're starting to see that come up a lot at this time. And a lot of people are questioning the value of some of the processes. They just want to hear a different perspective. We're happy to talk, see if there might be a fit, if we have capacity, if we get a mutual thumbs up. But that's probably just call or email. It's the best way to get in touch. Yep.
That's great. All right, Rob Curtis, and that's Curtiss, folks. Follow this podcast for the newest episodes, and please, as Rob was saying, share with others, especially those you care about. I'm Patrice Sikora, and let's talk again later.
Thank you for listening to the Millionaire Next Door podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Signature Estate and Investment Advisors or Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.